Just got in from a walk and I'm looking wind blown. It is so windy outside. So if you're watching this on YouTube, just don't mind the wind blowingness. It's all good. Got to get this in before I have to go get Madison. I just put on my tinted lip balm from Dime. If you need a good lip balm, I mean, first of all, I love lip balm. I don't like a chapstick though. I like one that's like, I used to use Carmex. That was like my go-to. Like I always had at least 3 on hand everywhere. Obviously, I don't use that anymore, but the Dime lip balm has replaced that because it's that type of lip balm, like that consistency and in that type of like packaging. It's not like a chapstick, but I have them all over the place. They have the regular one and they have the tinted one. I love it so much. Anyway, this is not an ad. I just literally just used it and I want to talk about it. Okay, anyway, now what this episode is about, welcome back to the show, or welcome to the show. I'm always so happy you're here. So today we're talking about people who you maybe specifically, obviously, if you're listening to this, you might be experiencing some type of like PMS symptoms around ovulation. I was on a Mind Your Hormones Method quarterly call the other day, and this was one of the questions that came up of like, I don't actually experience much PMS during my luteal phase. I actually experience it more during ovulation, like what's happening. And so I wanted to bring it to the podcast because I'm sure this is happening. Not I'm sure, I know this is happening to more than just my client who is in the Mind Your Hormones Method. So let's talk about it. Honestly, it's like pretty much not the same thing as happening. Sounds like a different point in your cycle, but the like support thing that I talked to you about of what you can do to help yourself through this is pretty much the same support that I talked to you about of how you can support yourself in your luteal phase. It's just doing it at a different time in your cycle. So when you're ovulating, what's actually happening is your estrogen is peaking. It's the highest point that your estrogen is going to be at because estrogen helps actually release the egg, right? It triggers the release of the egg. It's also what creates your cervical mucus, which is why you likely are going to have, or you should have cervical mucus right before you are ovulating so that you can actually get pregnant, because you can't get pregnant without cervical mucus. And estrogen is what produces cervical mucus. So your estrogen is peaking for multiple reasons: to help produce that cervical mucus and to trigger that release of the actual egg. Your luteinizing hormone, your LH, is also spiking sharply as well to help with that ovulation. Your luteinizing hormone is what actually will help like trigger that ovulation to burst and the egg to be released. And then your progesterone is not on the scene yet. Your progesterone does not come onto the scene until after you ovulate, because ovulation is what actually produces progesterone. So right like leading up to ovulation and like right before you are ovulating, you can be, not even you can be, everybody is, temporarily like has excess estrogen or estrogen dominant because you don't have progesterone yet, right? It didn't come onto the scene yet. So especially if your body is having trouble clearing your estrogen properly, like your liver isn't functioning well or your gut isn't functioning well, or you have just some underlying inflammation, this excess estrogen, like this temporary estrogen dominance, can be really negatively impacting you and causing these PMS symptoms, right? Because all of us are experiencing this, right? Like, again, if your hormones are balanced, you're going to be having that higher estrogen than progesterone because progesterone hasn't come onto the scene yet. So if you're having trouble clearing it and you have some inflammation or your blood sugar is regulated or whatever, we'll talk about all that in a second. This can cause you to feel more irritable around ovulation, have mood swings, have bloating, have water retention, breast tenderness, headaches, migraines, fatigue, brain fog, like all the typical PMS symptoms. You're just experiencing it during ovulation and not in your luteal phase. Or you could be experiencing it both times, which really sucks because then you're getting it twice, which that's really not fun. So basically overall, what could be happening is that your estrogen is high, right? Not could be happening. This is what's happening. Estrogen is high, and progesterone, which is like gives you kind of a stabilizing effect in a way, because progesterone is like your calming hormone and it helps like estrogen and progesterone work together like yin and yang. We want them to be in balanced ratios for you to feel your best. So if this is happening to you around ovulation, your estrogen is high, your progesterone just might, has not kicked in yet. So your body can feel a bit dysregulated if you're a little bit sensitive to these shifts, right? So a few reasons why I could feel like PMS to you is, number one, like I just said, you could really be very sensitive to this higher estrogen and your body could just be more reactive to it. It could also be more reactive to the rapid dip that happens right after ovulation, right? So that could be happening for you. Like I said, I mentioned before, inflammation. So if you have some underlying chronic inflammation, this ovulation, like the event of ovulating, can add to that, because ovulation, it's not inflammatory in your body, but like it kind of is like an inflammatory event, because that there's like a spike in your prostaglandins, which are like inflammatory like substances in your body, to help rupture the follicle, right? So like, and if you just have chronic underlying inflammation from other things, like in your gut and things like that, that could be adding to it and why you're possibly feeling this PMS. Third thing, blood sugar dysregulation, right? I mean, also, spoiler alert, if you've been here for a hot second, these are things I'm literally always talking about. So it always is going back to these major root causes, whether you're feeling PMS during your ovulation, whether you're feeling PMS during your luteal phase. We're always going back to these systems in your body. We're always going back to these major root causes, because this is the root of it all. Literally, this is the Mind Your Hormones method, okay? This is why it is so impactful and it is so successful no matter what, okay? So back to, I digress, blood sugar regulation. Have we ever talked about it on this show? Say it with me, guys. Say it with me. What is going to be really helpful for your blood sugar regulation? Protein, fiber, and healthy fat combinations in your meals. Obviously, there's more to it. I have an entire program on just balancing your blood sugar. So there's a lot more than just having protein, fiber, and healthy fat combinations in your foods. But obviously, that's part of it. But if your blood sugar is dysregulated, yes, that's going to be really negatively impacted in your luteal phase, because your blood sugar is naturally more dysregulated in your luteal phase. But this could be impacting you during ovulation if your cortisol or your insulin are just, not where it needs to be. They could amplify any imbalances you experience where you're experiencing it during ovulation and not just in that luteal phase. Again, gut and liver stagnation. Your gut and your liver are detoxification pathways. So during ovulation, you're having that higher estrogen, because that's when your estrogen is at its absolute highest, is during ovulation. If your liver is unable, if it's like, I don't say it's backed up, but it's like clogged in a way, right? If it is overburdened with toxic products that you might be having, because your liver is going to process out what's more life threatening. So any toxins you're coming in contact with, whether that's medications, environmental toxins, toxins in the things you're cooking your food in or storing your food in, beauty products, household cleaning products, candles, cologne, all of it, alcohol, foods that are not organic, coffee, your liver has to process all of this on top of metabolic waste, just like normal daily things and normal daily contact we have with stuff we just like walk outside, right? So if your liver is overburdened, and it has been for a really long time, birth control, all these things, and we haven't fully supported it with obviously dietary changes, even possibly adding in some extra supplementation, which I could talk to you about in a second, then your liver is not going to be able to properly process out that excess estrogen, which is what I talk about all the time, especially in the luteal phase, because those excess estrogen hormones, yes, they need to be, processed and get out of the body, but it's not life threatening. And your liver is going to process what's more life threatening before it gets to the excess hormones, because it doesn't view the excess hormones as life threatening, right? So if your liver is a bit sluggish, and or your gut, because your liver processes and metabolizes all your excess hormones, your metabolic waste, toxins, all that, moves it onto the gut. And then the gut, when it is working properly, packages it all up into poop and gets it out of the body. But if your gut is impacted and your gut is, not expelling hormones properly, you're not pooping enough, you have an imbalance of bacteria, your gut lining is compromised, whatever it is, then that excess estrogen and the toxins, metabolic waste, all of it can get recirculated back into the body, which is going to intensify your symptoms, whether it's during ovulation or during your luteal phase, which is why, too, there's a specific order in the Mind Your Hormones method of doing things, because you don't want to just like support your liver tenfold and then it's like, yes, it's processing everything, it's going, it's amazing, and then it moves on to the gut, and the gut is like, well, I'm fucked and I can't get this out of the body, so I got to recirculate it back in. That's why there's an order of healing that we do, so that when we do work on your liver, your gut is already top notch, your gut is already ready to go, so that when the liver moves everything into it, it can actually expel it out of the body, right? So that could be a reason why you're experiencing these ovulation symptoms these PMS symptoms around ovulation. And then, yeah, those are like the major issues that could be going on. So when we're thinking about it that way, what can help? Obviously joining the Mind Your Hormones. I mean, that goes without saying, because literally all of these things that we're talking about are complete modules in the Mind Your Hormones method with trainings for every single one. But obviously, I'm going to give you some tips here too. You already know how we do. Supporting your gut for sure is going to be helpful so we can actually get that excess estrogen out of your body properly. It's really going to be like the tips that I'm going to give you for this are going to be the tips you've heard me talk about for your luteal phase. So like being extra conscious. So I'm going to start here with your blood sugar, being extra conscious of your blood sugar regulation. So generally we say like in your follicular and in your ovulation phase, you have a little bit more wiggle room with how long you could go between meals because generally your blood sugar is more regulated during ovulation and during your follicular phase. However, if you're experiencing this, you need to be more on top of your blood sugar regulation and not going maybe 4.5, pushing it hours in between meals that some of us can get away with in our follicular phase. I want you to treat it like how we treat it in the luteal phase, where it's like every 3.5 hours you're eating, you're having your protein, fiber, and healthy fat rich meals and snacks without skipping meals, without going 5+ hours between meals, because you might just have more dysregulated blood sugar that could be amplifying these PMS symptoms during ovulation. So really prioritizing your blood sugar regulation. If you haven't yet downloaded my free training, How to Create Hormone and Blood Sugar Balanced Meals, that's actually training from the Mind Your Hormones method. Highly recommend it. We'll put it in the show notes. So that's number one. Number two would be your stress response, right? So just like we talked about in the luteal phase, your cortisol levels are naturally higher in your luteal phase. But if you're experiencing these symptoms around ovulation, first of all, I think we could just like a blanket statement. All of us probably have some cortisol levels that could use some love just because, especially if you're trying to conceive, if you're a mom, if you're, working full time, if you're just a little human in this world these days, like we have a lot of underlying stress and chronic stress that needs to be managed. So really prioritizing that every single day of your cycle is going to be helpful. And a lot of times we talk about how it's most important in your luteal phase to really scale back any exercises, not doing intense cardio, boot camps, spin classes, all of that. I want you to pertain that in every cycle, right? So maybe for some of us in your follicular and ovulation phase, when things are balanced out, you could handle more of a cardio-based exercise and more intense exercise. You might not be able to, especially for now. Let's get things under control. Let's get you not having these PMS symptoms during ovulation. So let's make sure we're focusing on strength exercises, focusing on Pilates, yoga, focusing on things that are going to help nourish your nervous system, support flexibility, support your pelvic floor health, like those types of exercises, even in your follicular and your ovulation phase, like all the time, 24/7. Okay. Like not 24/7, but like every day during your cycle. Okay. Every phase of your cycle, I should say. So really supporting your nervous system like that, of course, meditating, like all that stuff, right? The other thing I would say is inflammation. So we're talking about inflammation, ways you can help support your inflammation levels. Things that I talk about for the luteal phase, especially if you're experiencing PMS symptoms or cramps, is increasing your omega-3s. So you could do this during your follicular and ovulation phase. Have an additional omega-3 supplement instead of just the one a day, have an additional. And or if you have not yet listened to my episode where I talked to the founder of Fatty 15 about C15, which is an essential fatty acid different from omega-3, highly recommend listening to that. It is amazing. I would for sure add that in, especially if you're having these PMS symptoms, whether it's during your luteal phase or during your ovulation. And then, of course, more like omega-3 rich foods, chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds, all of that stuff. Magnesium, you need to be taking that all the time. Miracle Work Magnesium, that goes without saying, but that helps with inflammation. Even CBD could be helpful for this. And then doing like raw carrots. I have an episode I'll link below where I talk about helping clearing your estrogen in your luteal phase, like 3 different things I recommend for that. I'm going to link that below because I'm not going to do a whole episode on here. I already have one. I want you to focus on that during your ovulation as well, not just your luteal phase. So we'll link that below. Part of that is like raw carrots. So we'll link that episode for you so you could listen to that. And that could be really helpful as well, which also supports your liver detoxification. Cruciferous vegetables like kale, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage. I missed one. Kale, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower. Those are cruciferous vegetables. Definitely cooked, always cooked. If you're someone who like your gut is possibly impacted, then you might not be able to tolerate them very well. Start really small, make sure they're cooked and don't have large amounts until you know that your body can support that for liver detoxification. One of my favorite liver supportive herbs is milk thistle. Obviously, it depends on the person, depends on what else you're taking. So like consult your doctor, consult your nutritionist, whoever you're working with to see if that could be helpful for you. But that's something else I would be thinking of as well for helping support your liver. And then obviously, making sure we're having organic foods as much as possible. We're not having alcohol, we're limiting alcohol. We're getting rid of the toxins. We're making sure we're taking off the burden from our liver as much as we possibly can so that it can actually process these things through. Gut support, the magnesium is going to be helpful for that. Eating anti-inflammatory, more plants, more fiber, that's going to be extremely helpful for your gut. Gut personal products, I absolutely love. That could be really helpful for your gut. Besides Miracle Worker Magnesium, could be the healer. That could be really helpful for helping support your gut lining, your inflammation levels, your immune system. So those are the things I would be thinking about to help support you if you are experiencing this PMS during ovulation. So first step, I want you to, if you don't already have access to the How to Create Hormonal Blood Sugar Balance Meals, download that to make sure that you know how to at least do that one step for balancing your blood sugar of protein, fiber, and healthy fat-rich meals without making sure we're not skipping meals, doing all the things. That would be my step one for you. Step two would be making sure that you are not just having the omega like we talked about, but you have a well-rounded supplement regimen where you are not nutrient deficient, because nutrient deficiencies could obviously impact this. I have 3 fertility supportive supplements that I always recommend. I mean, people listening to this might not be trying to conceive, but we'll put that in the show notes for you as well. Obviously, I have a whole supplement masterclass you can get separately, but it's also part of the Mind Your Hormones method. So that's really important. Third step would be the gut support. So lots of fiber, obviously whole foods, no pesticides, increasing your omega-3s to help with the inflammation and your gut levels, and looking at some gut personal supplements like the healer, the Miracle Worker Magnesium will be really helpful for that. Managing your stress. So again, not over exercising, all of that. And then the last one would be your liver support. So taking off that burden from your liver as much as possible. Those are going to be the steps I would recommend you take. I mean, obviously, if you just want like step-by-step roadmap of exactly what to do for all of that, I mean, get inside the Mind Your Hormones method. I literally created it. I did the heavy lifting for you. I did all the work for you. I did the trial and error. I did all of it. So you could just open your computer, boom, 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 do this, do this, do this, do this, take it at your own pace, watch it when you can, implement it when you can. It's literally laid out for you. No more guessing, no more sifting through stuff or being like, wait, what did we say about? It's literally all right there. And you could use code podcast for 10% off for that. So I'll always have them in the show notes for you. But that could be what is going on. That could be why you're experiencing this PMS during ovulation. And of course, you can get rid of that. Of course, your body is designed to heal. It doesn't have to stay like this. But these are signs too that there are deeper things going on that can impact your fertility, your energy, your cycle, how you feel day to day, that we want to work on so that you can feel better. And then if you do want to get pregnant, so you can support a healthy pregnancy. So that could be what's popping off. All the things that we talked about, the episodes, the links to the everything, the free trainings, all of that, the Mind Your Hormones, that everything will be in the show notes. If you have any questions, come let me know. I hope this was helpful for you. As always, I'm so grateful that you're here. I love this community. I love this podcast so much. I appreciate you leaving reviews. It helps the show grow so much. So I really appreciate you doing that and sharing with your friends. It means the world to me. I love reading your reviews. It makes me so happy because I'm talking to you, but like, I don't hear what you're thinking and what you're saying. You know what I mean? So thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you know, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for being here. If you loved this episode and learned something valuable, please share it with a friend who you think would also love it, or post it on social media and tag me so I could personally say thank you for helping me spread this important message. I am beyond grateful to be here with you. So until next time, stay intentional, stay consistent, and always mind your hormones.